Now, as Eskom battles to keep those lights on, companies are being forced to make other arrangements. And the mining sector, as one of the country's biggest users of electricity, is leading the charge. The Minerals Council of South Africa says that the sector is developing 73 self-generation projects and hopes to have a self-generation capacity of about 2,294 megawatts by 2025. Let's get more information on this from Mr. Christian Defo, who's the technology analyst at the Minerals Council. He joins me now from Stellenbosch to discuss this further. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Mr. Defo. Maybe before we get into the opportunities that the mining sector is looking to present into South Africa's energy sector, how bad has it been for the miners to experience the amount of blackouts that we have been?
Good evening to you, and thank you for having me. Not having electricity is very bad for us. Remember, at any time we've got almost 200,000 people underground at the mines. Now, their lives depend on the availability of electricity. We're also operating heavy machinery in terms of smelters. And if you stop those smelters at any time without any notice, you've got a possibility of the mixtures that are in there freezing up in there, and then you lose the smelter, which amounts to a lot of millions. This has happened before, early last year when we went into load shedding stage 6. That happens to some of our smelters. So you've got damage to equipment, and you're also risking with lives of people.
No, absolutely. And I mentioned in my intro that the mining sector is one of South Africa's biggest employers, if not the biggest. And so when you engage with different stakeholders in the industry, how much are the mining companies looking to reduce their reliance on Eskom by?
So most of our members as the Minerals Council are looking at setting up their own renewable energy generation facilities. We've got about 25 of our companies that have got roughly about 75 projects. I had you quoting a figure of about 2,000. That amount, we put it in the media last year, 2 years ago. We're currently sitting at about 5,100 megawatts of electricity that's going to come online. Now, this for us will bring energy security. And as we know, in the past 12 years or so, since 2008, electricity prices have quadrupled. Now, when we bring this electricity in, it will come in at a cheaper cost, which will make sure that we dilute the Eskom price and ensure sustainability of the mines. The other thing is that we will also reduce the greenhouse gases, which will mean that our companies will be able to comply.
So when we look at that reduced exposure of the industry to Eskom, percentage-wise, what would you say we're looking at?
You're looking at about 30% reduction in terms of what we're going to be consuming from Eskom. Remember, when you say 5,000 megawatts in terms of renewable, if you actually want to get the energy that you get from 5,000 megawatts, you'd need to multiply that by 3, because the sun is only available for 8 hours effectively during the day, and wind goes up and down. So that would give us about 30%. But that 30% will then allow Eskom to be able to maintain their plant better and get their EIF up so that they can supply the country. So our strategy is to work hand in hand with Eskom and not to kick them out of the business. We still need them. In the evenings, the coal power stations are helping the mines to carry on. And as we know, there's supposed to be about 3,000 megawatts of gas, which is dispatchable electricity, that's supposed to come in to balance this renewable energy. but that gas coming on is actually late. We're supposed to have procured already. We're not yet there. There's also about 1,500 megawatt of coal that's supposed to be built. We're very late on that. We know also with the renewables government procurement plans, they are all late. So whatever energy that you can get online will assist the country.
So we are seeing the companies like Goldfields, and we've got Sibanye Stillwater, Kumba Iron Ore, they've embarked on their projects. When can we start to see the mines actually start using the energy that they would have produced from building these projects?
So I can say we've got Pan-African Resources, which has already put 10 megawatts online. I was speaking to them about 2 weeks ago. They were already going through testing, so they are operating. Goldfields is going to put an additional 50 megawatts online this year. And you've got about 38 megawatts that's coming from Harmony Gold Mine. That would give us about a total of about 100 megawatts this year. So I've got that sheet of 5,000 megawatts. In 2023, you've got around about 1,000 megawatts coming online. In 2024, about 2,300 megawatts. Then in 2025, almost 2,000 megawatts.
Very exciting times indeed for the sector and the provision of this power. And this is a very important development, Mr. Defo, because your statement reads that these companies spend about 123 million on an annual basis for power alone to pay Eskom. And so with the reduction of costs of this nature, we don't have to worry about things like job security for workers.
Yes. So basically, if you're reducing the cost of mining, we'll be able to invest in exploration. We'll be able to build new mines. We'll be able to, most importantly, sustain the production that we have now. And you know, South Africa is a primary resources country. So when you have an upswing in mining, you see an upswing in everything. If you look at, the previous year, where the commodities went up and we generated more than 200 billion additional, you've seen now that there's an upward trend of jobs. It is in mining, but most of it is also in manufacturing and the surrounding industries around us.
And then very briefly, you mentioned the challenge of the sun being out for about 8 hours a day for the solar projects. Are there any other challenges you foresee mining companies will have to deal with when it comes to dealing with renewable energy in particular?
Yes, there is plenty of them. The first one is the transmission lines in South Africa. So the way we've been set up internally with the power stations being built around Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Free State. So the transmission lines are mostly congested there. Now you sit with a challenge where you'll get the most electricity if you set up in the Capes, the 3 Capes, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and Western Cape. But now you do not have enough transmission line to wheel that energy inland. So that's a big challenge. Eskom has put it on the table to say they need about 178 billion to build about 8,400 kilometers of lines to be able to supply the whole of South Africa. So that's a challenge. It's going to take 10 years to build those lines. But Eskom has also come to the fore and say they've got about 2,000 megawatts of lines that they can offer in the Mpumalanga area around the old power stations where mines can build their own solar power energy there to ensure that we've got the transmission that's needed to wheel the power. Other constraints also comes with the red tape that we have. In terms of environmental authorizations, there's time limits that are set for government to deal with those authorizations. But most of what we've seen before is that it takes longer, sometimes double the time it's supposed to take. And that way it delays your projects. There's also the Eskom processes, which are supposed to take 210 days. We know about the worst cases where people have taken almost 2 years to get those through. But I must say also on Eskom's behalf that they've beefed up their departments. We've heard from the presidency that they've tripled the resources or labor resources within their department to make sure that they can deal with this renewable energy power stations that are coming online. Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Technology expert with the Minerals Council of South Africa, Christian De, for joining us there to speak about the mining sector, which is looking to reduce its reliance on Eskom.